Sometimes the pain we carry isn't asking to be fixed. It's asking to be felt and set free. I want to share with you what happened to me today in a phone call with a dear friend. This story is about how one woman's recurring dream, persistent pain, and ancestral memory wove together in a deep moment of remembrance. A healing that began in her body and rippled through her lineage. It began with a simple phone call between Judy and I, the kind that starts as a conversation but becomes sometimes something far more sacred. This was a doorway into remembrance. Her voice was teary and tight, the sound of someone holding both pain and overwhelm. She sounded chaotic and in distress. Before we continued, I brought her through a few slow, intentional breaths to calm her nervous system, and we breathed together until her voice softened and I could feel her body begin to settle. Then, sensing her breath still felt shallow, I guided her through gentle somatic tapping, up the inside of her arm and down the backside of her arm, activating the lung meridian to open her breathing and open the flow. And with each tap on both sides of her body, on both arms, I invited her to exhale a little deeper. And within moments, her breath began to open and she could breathe more freely. It kind of expanded like a wave. She yawned, which is the body's natural release, and the space between her words softened. Only then did the story start to unfold. She told me about a pain that refused to leave, a deep ache in her right hip and groin, radiating down from the top of her thigh since her hip surgery. The pain was tight and tender, and she was afraid to bear weight on it. She tried everything from stretching and massage, therapy, energy work, and after months of recovery, she was frustrated. The injury had stopped her in her tracks, both literally and energetically. Beneath the frustration, her body was trying to speak, and this time it wouldn't be silenced. Then she said softly to me, "Maybe it's from a past life." I paused, feeling the thread behind her words. "Maybe," I said, "or maybe it's someone in your DNA fractal line, someone in your bloodline, your ancestry, who couldn't finish what you now can." You see, we are always carrying forward the loss and trauma of unlived lives, the silent echoes in the commotion of their emotions that become the issues in our tissues. And pain in the body can be the unlocked door. Your awareness is the key that opens it. Her breath deepened. Her body began to listen. I invited her to place her hand over the top of her thigh where the pain lived and just simply breathe. And then I asked, "What are you afraid to step into?" Because the right leg, the side of action, movement, and forward momentum, tells the story of how we walk through life. It carries the masculine impulse, the drive to act, to lead, and to move forward. When that energy has been overused or unbalanced, the body eventually resists. Her pain wasn't just physical. It was her power pressing against a closed door. As Carl Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And as I reminded her gently, what you resist persists. Healing is always an inward journey, a return to the unseen spaces within us that are still calling for light. There are always more unconscious cries for freedom, waiting to be met by the presence of your own awareness. What part of you has been quietly calling for liberation? And are you willing to listen before it has to speak through pain? She has always been methodical, capable, and self-reliant, taking on the doing for her mother as a child, she told me. because she sensed stress in her mother, so she wanted to take on some tasks to just alleviate any unperceived pain or struggle. And she worked beside her husband on their farm, carrying masculine roles with endurance. Even her healing had been about doing, pushing through, trying harder, determined to fix what hurt. And I don't blame her, because she lives on a farm and she has a lot to do. And sometimes you just got to push through things and get it done. But sometimes healing isn't about doing at all. It's about receiving, listening deeply with love to your body and asking it what it's trying to tell you. Tears came before words. Then she remembered a dream that had followed her for decades. A bull chasing her again and again, and always running, always afraid to turn around, waking up, panicked. Now the pattern had form. I guided her to step back into the dream, not as the frightened runner, but as the witness of her own courage. Turn around, I said softly. Ask the bull why he's chasing you. She did. And there she was, radiant, angelic, wings of light unfurling behind her. The bull stood before her, powerful and trembling. From your heart, I guided, pour golden light and keep sending love until the bull steps into it. The bull entered her light. She felt its breath, warm, alive against her chest. Ask if you may touch it. She heard a quiet yes. She wrapped her arms around its neck, and the bull softened in her embrace. The power was never meant to be tamed, I said softly, only nourished by your divine feminine. The bull is not chasing you, it's trying to catch up to you, to be integrated. Then I asked, who is the bull? She grew still, and then she saw him, her great-grandfather. In that instant, I knew this was ancestral trauma, the commotion in her emotion, the issue in her tissue, finally rising to be seen and to be heard. Whether you call it memory, energy, or grace, the truth is, the body remembers everything love is still trying to reach. She asked if she could love him from her heart. He covered his face and he wept. And then he opened his arms and they embraced each other. A reunion through time, a full body hug. And he whispered one word, wow. The golden light that began in her heart flowed through him and through his children and through her mother and finally through her own body. And the lineage began to breathe again. That's what happens. I guided her awareness back into her body, into the living altar of her womb. Hands resting on her sacrum, her hips, on the outside, then the inside, just tucked underneath the inside of her hip bone, and her pubic bone. The tender geography where movement, memory, and creation meet. Her body lit up like a glowworm. The fascia trembled as though a caterpillar dissolved into golden light. She felt micro tremors, an expansion rise from her womb into her heart. Her whole being opened to receive herself. And I acknowledged her vulnerability, her courage to be visible with me in this moment of deep release. It's very, very sacred. I shared softly, my definition of intimacy is into me I see. You're turning that gaze inward now and seeing yourself with love instead of judgment. It's a really powerful moment. I asked her to breathe from her heart up through her throat and out through her crown as though she was breathing in like a golden light. She felt resistance, the last trace of her fear to use her voice and move forward. Her grandfather stopped her and didn't want to go out through the crown of the head. So I said, invite your great-grandfather to release upward too, not into the ground again, but through his crown. Let freedom rise, not sink. Her presence softened him. In his uncertainty, it became joy. In that moment, she repeated that she heard him say softly, "No one has ever been this present for me." Let's all take a pause on that. A high crystalline sound rose from her, like a little scream, and the vibration of liberation itself. And at that same moment, her dog barked and her horse neighed, a little mini donkey in the field just outside the window. And the field responded. And Judy laughed, radiant, elated, and free. To anchor the transformation, we opened energy in her foot for flow, her wrists for calm, and her chest for tranquility. Points that move emotion and calm the heart and let love lead this entire experience. Now she's my dear friend. She already has my essential oil blends, and I suggested she go grab her Harmony Earth Magic Essential Oil Blend and anoint herself with it, and breathe its scent in until the fragrance and her heartbeat became one rhythm. She anointed herself with this oil on her wrists and on her chest, and she breathed it in. And during that same phone call, the pain softened, and she stood with more ease and more grace, and her body began to move again, not by force, but by flow. It was magical and miraculous because she's the miracle. And by the time we hung up, she was feeling only peaceful. When silence returned, she whispered, "I have never thought of healing like this, Marci. You use feeling for healing." Yes. Because sometimes the pain that stops us in our tracks isn't only from this lifetime. Sometimes it is the echo of ancestral strength that was never allowed to move freely. The masculine energy that carried, provided, protected, and yet never received. When love finally meets that exhaustion, integration happens. And we cannot bypass this part of healing. This is the sacred work of being human, to meet what our lineage could not, to restore flow where there was contraction, and to bring light where there was silence, right there our breath and our imagination. Each time we release what our ancestors could not, we heal not only our own bodies, but the collective field of humanity. When we heal ourselves, we heal humanity. This is the quantum nature of remembrance. This is the mission. This is my mission. Her story is a mirror reminding us all that what pursues us is often what we were meant to reclaim. What once chased you was never hunting you. Maybe it was your lineage's strength trying to catch up, asking to be held, to be heard, to be loved into wholeness and released. Did you ever think to turn around? I'd like to share the epilogue of this beautiful story. Judy followed up with me later that evening after tending to her horses. And she told me she was very mindful of her gait, as she has been, walking down to the pasture and to the barn, wherever she has to go to gather her grain and her hay. She was very aware of every step, every shift in her hips, and the tense pulling that had gripped her for weeks at the beginning of our call was gone. And when she began to feel any whisper of limitation, she simply turned around and she said to me, "Marci, I just talked to the bull. I smiled as I read her message, and in that moment, I felt complete and fully alive in my mission. Make time for yourself. Create space for your exquisite self-care. Heal yourself with me. When you heal yourself, you heal humanity. And when you share this work, you help awaken another soul who's been carrying the same weight. And you give them the tools and permission to lay their ancestral energy down. This is how we create the quantum leap into a world of luminous healing. One ritual, one breath, one heart at a time. This is the mission. You are the movement. You are always the medicine. And healing, well, healing is the new rebellion. Thank you for being here with me on this journey. Simple enough to remember, sacred enough to matter. Beautiful soul, are you tired of feeling burdened by stress and pain that is not truly yours? And ready to remember that you are your own medicine? I guide women through simple rituals with oils, herbs, acupressure, and sound frequency, helping you release what was never yours to carry, restore balance, and awaken your inner healer so you can live luminous and free. This is Luminous Healing with Marci Lubore. Have you ever wondered if the pain you carry did not even begin with you? In this Soul Contract of Healing miniseries, we unravel ancestral patterns and hidden contracts passed silently through your lineage. Here, pain becomes a portal into your illuminated life. Healing is the new rebellion. Luminous healing is the next revolution of your evolution. This is for educational and ritual purposes only. Honor your path and consult a healthcare provider as needed. Thank you for joining me on this journey into your soul contract of healing. Remember, you are your own medicine. With each ritual, you release what was never yours to carry and awaken the luminous healer within. Until next time, honor your path, trust your light, and keep choosing your freedom.